Hey everyone, this is James Roguski, and it is currently August 29th. We're just about coming up on Labor Day weekend here in the United States, and I'm here with Jeff Dornik, who is the founder of Pickax, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a social media platform that is currently in pre-launch. You've been in beta for a while. You've been working on this for quite some time. Jeff, I just want to give you the floor. Thanks for your time. What are you up to? Why are you doing what you're doing? Who the hell are you, and why should people pay attention to what you got going on here?
No, I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to chatting with you for a while. So I'm glad we can do this. But so for people that don't know me or aren't familiar with me, so I've had my own podcast and show called the Jeff Dornik Show for years. I ran a podcast network called Freedom First Network for several years as well. It morphed into Maverick Broadcasting that I'm doing now with Matt Couch and just commentating on politics, religion, all that, medical freedom, all the stuff that typically gets you banned on all the social media platforms.
If you're doing
Um,
if you're doing your job properly, yes.
yeah, I mean, and again, it's stories that we've all heard, but it's like we've been banned off of YouTube 6 times. Spotify kicked us off for a period of time for talking about election fraud one too many times. And the crazy thing about Spotify actually was that not only did they kick us off of Spotify, but then they went to our podcasting host and was like, you have to kick them off of your platform as well, or else we won't let you distribute any podcast to Spotify. They did that to two different podcasting hosts. We actually got a call from a board member of the second one that said, I don't know what's going on or what you guys did to piss off Spotify, but they're basically putting you on a blacklist. So we dealt with that for a while, and then all of a sudden they changed course because they brought Joe Rogan on, so then they had to be free speech. So we've all dealt with the censorship stuff, and so that was like obviously an easy thing to justify. Okay, well, we need an actual social media platform that truly believes in free speech, because when Elon bought X, he claimed we're going to do free speech for everybody. And then you look at the terms of service, and it literally says you have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which means you can technically say what you want, but that doesn't mean that they have to let anybody actually see it. So is that really different than overt censorship? It's just a different way of doing it. So that was kind of the justification for when I went to an investor and I was like, this is my idea. The main justification was the free speech stuff. Well, what was interesting was that as things morphed and as we've gotten to development of basically building a social media platform, I started, diving into AI. I started diving into algorithms, started diving into monetization and content creators and all these different kinds of things. You're like, this is bigger than just freedom of speech. This is like they're centralizing power among these big tech elite. They're collecting all of our data to build their AI, and the AI that they ultimately want to replace human beings, which we could dive into. There's so many different things where I'm like, no, this is actually going to become the most human-centered social media platform on the planet, because my goal is to put humans first. I want to see your creativity. I want to hear your thoughts. So everything that we do is through that lens on this platform. So, I've set it up to where I don't have to collect your data. I don't have to stalk you when you're talking on the phone and then to get ads to target what you're talking about. Like, I don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. And so we're structuring it in a way that helps human beings to get their voice back. So I don't get in the middle between you and your audience. You can write articles on the platform. You can integrate with Rumble to where Rumble videos are playable in the newsfeed as if native to the platform. We're going to be rolling out an email newsletter component in the next several months that's going to be similar to Substack. So we're going to be doing a lot of things, but everything is from the perspective of how do we build up human beings as opposed to using humans in order to build up our technology and then replace humans with that technology that we developed using you. So it's a lot of it is the worldview behind it, but then as we develop new features, the features are developed with humans and you in mind, as opposed to how do we use you for our own benefit. And I feel like with our business model, it actually works very well to where it's like we develop products, we put human beings first. We'll figure out how to monetize and do stuff like that on the back end. That's fine, but our number one goal is to amplify human beings with this platform.
Let me ask a very, specific question about your pickaxe platform's algorithm, which, really is, I think, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, essentially, if you're following someone, you click the follow button to whomever it is you're following, you're going to see their work on your feed. There's no messing around with that. There's no shadow banning. There's no, that sort of thing. And vice versa. If you're just a regular person or if you're a content creator and someone follows you, then if you publish something, if you post something or write an article, your work will show up in their feed. Now, that seems like common sense, and I think still to this day, people think that's how it is on other platforms. And oh my God, it most certainly isn't. So if you want to riff on that, please do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What is it that you're doing that everybody thinks, I think inherently, oh, well, that's how it is everywhere, but it isn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's really interesting because when I dive into this topic specifically, a lot of people's minds are blown because they're just sitting here and they're like, I thought that the whole point was to gain an audience. The dirty secret in social media today is that it doesn't matter how many followers you have, and everybody's like, that's ridiculous. Look at all these people that have millions of followers, or hundreds of thousands of followers on all these other platforms, and they're like, yeah, they're getting screwed just like the rest of us. And it doesn't matter if you're conservative, it doesn't matter if you're talking politics. Everybody's getting screwed now because people have been building up their following for years on all these platforms, and then all of a sudden, and you can actually trace this back. It was about October of 2021. Everything changed
Mhm.
when it came to the algorithms, to where from that point forward, it no longer mattered how many followers you have on social media. So I'll set it up with what we do on Pickaxe, and then I want to contrast it with what is happening on these other platforms. So the way that we have our quote unquote algorithm set up is that if you follow somebody, they're going to show up in your newsfeed. We're not going to get in the middle. We're not using algorithms to try to guess what kind of content you want to see. Well, you're telling us by following somebody. So our standard news feed on your main homepage, that's going to be chronological, kind of like old school MySpace, Twitter days, where if you post something, then it's going to be up at the top, and then as more people post, it gets bumped back down. We manipulated it a little bit to where as you see more engagement and comments and conversations happening, it'll get bumped back up to the top and kind of go back down. So then as a post is gaining traction or goes viral or something along those lines, it'll just keep getting bumped up to the top if you're following that person. And so we feel like that's the most fair way of doing it, to where I don't have to create an algorithm to try to guess the content you want to see and then recommend all these profiles that you don't actually follow because it's content based, is what the way all these other platforms are. So there's that. The only really algorithm that we use is when it comes to our trending tab, because then we factor in, engagements, comments, views, all these different kinds of things to figure out, okay, what is it that most people are engaging with the most
That's
on the
the
platform.
definition of trending. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how we set it up. Again, it's very basic. It's kind of a nod to the old school MySpace, Twitter days, which I've tried to throw a few little Easter eggs in there with MySpace. But when you look at what's happening on these other social media platforms, and I know this because I'm friends with a lot of people that are content creators and influencers in a whole host of other industries, food, health, wellness, entertainment, all that kind of stuff. They're all facing the same problem. I think conservatives a lot of times felt like we were being targeted, which we were, but that the censorship is only dealing with us, and that's not actually true. And so, for example, we've got a good friend of mine. Her name is Gigi. She's over here on she's come over to Pickaxe. She's known as the Salmon Queen, right? She's keto, kind of carnivore-ish, but she eats 12 pounds of salmon a week. That's her shtick. So everything is all the different ways that you can cook salmon. You'd think that's not very controversial. She shouldn't be censored. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. But October 2021 came around, and all of a sudden everything flipped. And to where she had built up a really good audience. She was getting sponsorship deals, cookbooks. Her cookbook was in Whole Foods, like all these different kinds of things. And then the algorithms changed, and then her following no longer mattered. Now it only mattered to, can you catch the algorithm? Can you play to what the algorithm wants in its content, and basically in whatever Overton window that it's set? And all of a sudden, she and a lot of other, content creators, they went from basically having a reliable, sustainable income and engagement and all of that, to all of a sudden everything changed. So what ended up happening on Instagram is they max out, I believe the number, it may have changed more recently, but the number was they max out only 3% of your audience can actually see any one single post that you post, unless you pay them to advertise your post to your following of people that have already said that they follow your content. Make that make sense. So they cap off that 3% of your audience can see in any one post. And then it just comes down to, does the algorithm think that they can make it go viral, that people want to see it? Can they advertise on this kind of content? Is it within the Overton window that we want to promote? If you're pushing eating 12 pounds of salmon, that's not necessarily fitting in with the globalist worldview of let's go vegan and stop eating animals and lab grown meat and all that kind of stuff. So they may not promote that as much as maybe some other kind of content. So what's changed and what's affected a lot of people, and it's actually bringing a lot of people over to Pickaxe that are outside of the conservative political world, is that they're seeing that they can no longer have a sustainable business model if they're a content creator, if they're a blogger, if they're a writer or an Instagrammer or whatever it is, because nothing is consistent. There's nothing that you can do as an individual to bring back consistency to your social media experience. And so they're seeing the value in just having a, old school Twitter, MySpace news feed that's chronological, that guess what? If somebody follows you, that means that they have equal access to you and everybody else that they follow. Like, we're not going to get in the middle. We're not going to mess with that. And so when you see this and you look at people, you're like, okay, well, they've got 500,000 followers on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, they're facing the same censorship as you and everybody else, because it no longer matters about your audience. It only matters about the content. Are you within their Overton window? Can you quote unquote catch the algorithm? And all of a sudden now your content is no longer being written for humans. It's being written for AI and code and algorithms to try to quote unquote catch the algorithm. It's a completely backwards way of doing social media.
Couple of things that I want to mention. I experienced years ago, because I, for the most part, really haven't done social media. Yes, I have an account here and I have an account there, but I realized that I did not want to put my effort into helping billionaires make more money. Okay. And so one of the things I noticed is, somebody would say to me, "Hey, Jim, did you see what I posted on Facebook?" I'm like, "No." Do you not understand, how their algorithm hides whatever it is you're doing? If I went to your account and scrolled down on your account to see what you had been posting, maybe I would have seen it, but they're not showing it to me in my feed. The other thing, and I think people can double check this very, very easily, look at anybody that you might enjoy their content. Maybe they've got a YouTube channel or even a Rumble channel, or whomever. They have maybe millions of followers, but their views have, they got like 500 views. And what all these content creators have been doing is, oh, subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, set the notifications, like and subscribe, set the notifications. Except I don't get those notifications. And I don't know that you're live streaming. And you're counting on that video platform, doing what you think they've promised to do for you, but they're doing something totally different. And so all of that energy that went into essentially generating ad revenue for, YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, I've been saying for a couple of decades, when you land on a website, if you go to CNN, or MSNBC or the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or whatever, and you see advertisements pop up on screen, realize that you're causing money to be transferred into the hands of the billionaire owners of those platforms. Now, you've got a little bit of a different idea with the revenue sharing idea. Yes, there's advertising on Pickaxe, but to a certain degree, tell everybody how you're doing something different than what they're doing.
Yeah, so the one of my key components of building out the platform is I didn't want to do data collection, because that's what all that data is king. And also on a side note as well, it's like, obviously we've got all the big tech platforms. They've been collecting data for a very long time, and it's to target advertising and all that. Now they're actually using it to develop their artificial intelligence, their large language models, and all of that. And that's the thing that I warned everybody about Elon, is that he did not get a $44 billion loan to buy Twitter to defend free speech. He had to show a path to profitability, and it was AI. For a lot of people don't realize this, but recently his artificial intelligence.
Do you mean Grok is not your friend? Oh my God.
Well, what's crazy is technically Grok owns X. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is that XAI, the artificial intelligence company, bought X, and then now X is a subsidiary of XAI. Why? Because it's just all a big data collection scheme. They're taking it to make it the most relevant, up to date, in real time AI basically on the planet. And every single post that you post on X is feeding into making Grok that much more powerful. And so it's not just advertising, and now it comes down to AI. And whoever controls the AI in the long run is going to be the most powerful people on the planet because they're going to control everything, especially when you look at Elon with Optimus robots and self-driving cars and like all the craziness, right? But then data is also king when it comes to the government as well. And there was actually a new there's a new app that ICE is using where they're going to be scanning people's irises instead of fingerprinting, right? And one of the crazy things that they're actually doing is it's not just like criminals and other illegal immigrants that they're collecting data from, but they're actually comparing it to social media posts. So if you're posting a picture on social media, that's now going into the government database in order to identify people using this new app for identifying illegal immigrants and criminals and like all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, did I necessarily agree to that? Technically, the terms of service you probably didn't. You don't even realize it. So what we're doing with Pickaxe is I don't want to do the data collection thing. And everybody's like, well, how do you target ads? How do you do all of that? Well, it's very easy. And if and people anybody could do this. I don't know why nobody's doing this. You target ads based on content. You don't target ads based upon where you're going or stalking people or listening in on their phone calls or tracking them across different platforms and all that. You literally just target it based upon the content that you're looking at. So then that way, all of a sudden now it doesn't matter where you go, what websites you do, what you talk about on the phone. None of that matters. All that matters is, hey, I'm reading a post about medical freedom. Maybe you're going to want to see fill in the blank, the wellness company or a health share or some other supplement. You might be more interested in that. Or if you're talking about election fraud, maybe you're going to want a My Pillow ad. I don't know, but you can target it based upon the content. And then as we develop it, we can find more ways to be able to fine tune things without actually collecting anybody's data. And when I sat there and I'm thinking about this, I'm like, why is nobody else doing this, especially in the supposed free speech platforms? Because you look at a lot of these other platforms, they're collecting your data just the same. Why? Because they want to target ads, and they're stalking you across the board. And I'm like, we don't have to do that because all I care about is what content are you looking at, and then I can fill in an ad. One of the other things that we're going to roll out here soon as well is that's going to help us to fine tune our targeting is that we're actually going to use our content creators to help us target the ads. So one of the cool things that they'll be able to do is they'll be able to look at the list of advertisers, and maybe it'll be by category, maybe it'll be by brand, and they can actually prioritize which ads are shown on their content based upon their aligned beliefs and all of that. We're also going to begin to develop partnerships with a lot of these brands. We're already beginning to roll this out to where a content creator can actually become a direct affiliate with that brand, and then all the ads that are shown on our platform for that brand that show up on your content, you would then earn direct commissions on, from any sales that are generated by that ad, because we're going to auto-populate your own promo code. We're going to auto-populate your own tracking, link. So that way you get full credit and full commission directly from that company by the ads that are shown on your content. So then guess what? You're probably going to want to promote that product that you like and that you're going to begin to promote. You're going to want to amplify that on your content. So then you'll give it a higher weight when it comes to what shows up on your content. All of that is done without me having to collect your data. And that's the thing, that every single day that you're on another social media platform and you are posting content, you are fueling the beast of data collection, of targeting ads, of stalking you. You're enabling this really kind of creepy behavior by these big tech platforms every single day that you're on these other platforms.
Something like Twitter, you have to pay to play to even be able to really put your content out. And then the advertising that shows up when people are looking at your content, may be very objectionable. Believe me, there's a lot of ads that I see on other people's content that I would never want associated with my content. And you're not getting a piece of that, right? That's going straight to Twitter. That's how they're making their money. And so you've been working on this for quite some time. And I know how things go. Development happens slowly. There's a lot of things that are going on. Currently, at the moment, as we speak right now, August 29th, 2025, it's a web-based app, so anybody can just go to, pickaxe.com. Very easy for me, pickaxe.com/James Roguski. Find me, follow me, all that kind of fun stuff. But you're working on an app for, Apple and Android. Tell us about, the development of that and work. People who are early adopters are already in, I think you call them
Founding members, yeah.
founding members. Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, but people still can be a founding member. You can be one of the people who are considered early adopters if you get in because you're still now in what you're calling pre-launch. Okay. Tell us what, is on the horizon for you.
Yeah, definitely. So we're like you said, we've got the web version out right now. People can join, follow, engage, take full advantage of the platform. We're finalizing the iOS and the Android apps, and it's taken a little bit more time to kind of jump through certain hoops in order to be a free speech platform, but still get accepted into the app stores. And what's interesting is that a really big way that we've been able to do that is with our verification process, which verification is free on the platform. But what we realized looking at a lot of these other platforms that, like Getter and Gab and some of these other ones that I like what they've done from a functional standpoint and all of that. But a lot of the really, what you would call like hate speech, which I don't believe is an actual legitimate term, but obviously the big tech platforms, they all try to enforce that. The vast majority of the objectionable speech that's on a lot of these other platforms is actually done by anonymous accounts, troll accounts, bot farms, all that kind of stuff. And it's very little of it is actually done by real human beings where you see their face or that you see their brand or, something that's recognizable. So what we're figuring out is, okay, well, if we just verify the accounts and then only the verified accounts can trend, only the verified accounts can become content creators, only the verified accounts will be recommended profiles or anything like that. And that if you're not a recommended account, it's gonna be much more difficult to be seen. You can still enjoy the platform, you can still post, you can still comment, but you're never going to go viral, you're never going to do all that kind of stuff because technically you may or may not be a real human being. So that we by implementing that, we're actually able to get into the app stores and be free speech because basically they're seeing that, well, yeah, like 95% of the bad content that they would object to are done by unverified accounts. So by doing this, we're actually able to be accepted into the app store. So that's kind of like some of the extra hoops that we've had to jump through in order to do that. We're in the final phases of developing the apps. They'll be out very very soon. We're going to be making some announcements on that here coming up pretty quick. And then and then we're going to be rolling out a bunch of new features, a bunch of new improvements. We're going to have, like I think I mentioned earlier, we're going to have like an email newsletter component that's going to be similar to Substack, except we're going to allow content creators to monetize the free articles as well as the stuff that's behind a paywall if they would like. You could treat it as like a newsletter or like an article, subscription service kind of a thing, kind of like a Substack as well. But it's one way that you can actually build up an email list directly within a social media platform, which hasn't really been done before. And so we're trying to centralize everything in one place to where it helps the creators to be able to, build their audience. Again, by having an email list, you have direct access to your audience with no middleman whatsoever. And we're getting a lot of people that have never even considered having an email list. All of a sudden, they're excited about it. Like we're getting a huge influx of Rumble gamers that are coming over to Pickaxe because of our Rumble integration, where they can auto post their live streams onto Pickaxe and people can watch them live stream and all that. And all of a sudden, they're like, "Well, I never thought about having an email list. I could start to send out an email and let people know, hey, I'm going to be live, or I'm going to be doing this live stream with this other person, or you promote this product or whatever it is." They're beginning to see the value, and these people that have never even considered having an email list, let alone I've been talking to other people where they've been struggling with censorship on platforms like Substack, or they're not able to be found as well, or Stripe is dealing with them, and we're starting off with Stripe. We're going to phase out of Stripe, and we're going to develop our own alternative built into the platform. But people are seeing that, well, I need more direct access to their audience without middlemen, and so everything that we do is rolling that out, making that more effective, and bridging that gap between you and your audience. And so I think the app's going to help a lot with that. The email newsletter component's going to help with that. Making it to where the Rumble integration is even more effective is going to help with that. And so we've got those things that are going to be coming out over the rest of this year, and then next year we've got some really cool features that I can't announce yet. So
Just to add, to the Rumble thing, it's obvious to you, it's obvious to me, but a lot of people might not realize um, many platforms inhibit links, outside because they want you to stay on their platform, and content creators want that. And so if you post a link to YouTube in many platforms, you can watch the video within the article. And so if you've written an article and somebody wants to watch the video, you click on the video, you watch it, it's built in, it's incorporated. But if you go to Rumble, you can't do that. You click on the link. Now the person goes to Rumble, which is fine from Rumble's perspective, but then they've left your article and they're being distracted by everything else under the sun, cat videos and everything else it might be. And so by integrating Rumble videos, you got a free speech video platform within your free speech social media platform. But when somebody is, it's quite frankly very content creator friendly. And, that's the one thing that I don't know that I would say it's the one thing, but it's one of the things that I think sets Pickaxe apart. All of these other platforms literally steal your content. You click the box when you sign up, they say, "Oh, thank you very much. Whatever you do, we own it. Okay, it's not yours anymore," and they can take it and do whatever they want with it. But content creation is the creation of the person who created it. And you're trying to make life easier for people who want to have a voice, want to get their word out, build a following, and actually have the people who are following them have access without algorithmic, interference uh, to the free speech that, free speech and as, I guess I would say as much reach as you can develop. You're not limiting people's reach and then making them pay, to increase that. Boost your post, just send us money kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, well, and I think specifically with Rumble, it's really interesting because if you look at a lot of our competition on the other social media platforms, everybody's trying to develop their own video platform. And the thing for me as a content creator myself and somebody who's hosted a show is I feel like my audience became very diluted because I would get a pocket of people over here, a pocket of people over here, a pocket of people over here. Sometimes the live chat would come into, let's say, Restream or whatever it is. A lot of times it wouldn't if you're using a stream key or anything along those lines. And so it's like, why not, instead of diluting the audience even further, help creators to be able to build up their Rumble channels? And there was actually an article that somebody posted on Pickaxe the other day, and they ran a test. And again, we have a very small audience right now as we're still kind of in pre-launch and all that. And they were saying that as a Rumble gamer, they actually saw a significant jump in Rumble views just by posting their Rumble video onto Pickaxe because it's playable right there. Like, and so I think they had 700 additional monetized Rumble views just by posting the video with a very small audience on Pickaxe. And so they're like, this is a gold mine. If we continue to do this and grow and build with the platform, this can be our new way of being discovered. Because if you're on these other platforms, like you said, you get dinged if you post an outbound link. You get penalized in the algorithm if you're sending people to Rumble because they want to keep you on their platform, use their video platform, and all of that. Whereas I'm like, let's just help people build their Rumble channels. And the really interesting thing too is that it allows creators to actually double dip financially. They can earn revenue from doing their live reads and doing all that kind of stuff on Rumble. They can participate in our revenue share model that we're going to be rolling out here soon on Pickaxe. So they can kind of double dip on the same live stream in real time, which is kind of cool. But then also it's like, stop diluting, help them to build their Rumble channels, but then the way that we integrate, we're actually keeping Rumble very happy because the Rumble ads are showing on the Rumble videos on Pickaxe. So Rumble's happy with us basically doing whatever we want to help promote their videos on our platform. And I'm like, again, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, it wasn't that complicated of a feature to implement, and yet nobody else is doing it. But I don't foresee anybody else really trying to do this because they're all trying to develop their own video platforms that they control. It's very expensive to do, bandwidth and servers and all that kind of stuff. It like that alone can destroy a social media platform. So when I figured out this different model of like, okay, well let's build up Rumble, I'm like, no, this is the path forward. It'll help us to be profitable much quicker, but still have video content on the platform. It helps people to build their channels, which I think has gotten us a lot of loyalty from a lot of Rumble creators. I think that the more that people see the value in being able to promote your Rumble videos and Rumble channels on Pickaxe, I think it's going to help us to grow exponentially as a platform. Because even within Rumble, it a lot of times it can be very hard to get discovered until you become a big
Oh, it's
account.
practically impossible. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
practically.
and so by being able to actually promote on a social media platform and you don't get penalized for it, now all of a sudden now you actually have an opportunity to get views, earn revenue, build your Rumble channel on a social media platform. That's been unheard of if you're a Rumble creator for basically since the beginning of Rumble.
Let's wrap it up. Keep this video short so people have a chance to watch it. I'll put it up on Rumble and we'll see where it all goes. Um, Before you tell everybody, how to get a hold of you and Pickaxe is very, very simple. Just final words on, what is it that you want people to know that Pickaxe is working towards? What is it the core of what you're trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, honestly, the core of what we're trying to accomplish is giving humanity back its voice and taking the power away from the big tech oligarchs that are trying to centralize the power and basically replace you. Facebook is investing $65 billion into developing artificial intelligence created content creators and replace human beings as content creators on their platform. Elon Musk and Bill Gates are talking about replacing all of humanity in the workforce with Optimus robots and AI and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, so everybody's pushing towards that. And I'm looking at it, okay, well, we need a space for human beings that's not infiltrated with AI and robots and all of that. I had a conversation with Nicole Shanahan a few months ago for a summit that we did with Pickaxe on transhumanism and all that. And the topic that we kept coming back to was what are we going to do when AI is taking over everything? We need a human-centered space that where AI isn't infringing on all of us, and that's kind of how I see Pickaxe. Is I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as Pickaxe is the central human-centered hub, and then begin to develop new features, new apps, new platforms, new technologies that all funnels back through Pickaxe as that central hub, but we look at, okay, where's there another problem? What else can we provide a solution to? And then we integrate it into the platform to where there's really the sky's the limit on how far and how many different things that we can do as long as we have this centralized hub that we can bring everybody back together and we can begin to again amplify humanity, build everything up, and then take the power away from these big tech oligarchs that are trying to take our power away as human beings. So that's really kind of my mission as the CEO of Pickaxe is just trying to figure out how can we use technology to build up humanity.
Awesome. How do people get a hold of you? And we'll leave it there.
No, yeah, definitely. Again, Pickaxe, best place to follow. You guys can follow me over there. It's just pickaxe.com/Jeff Dornik. I'm all over the platform, obviously. But I highly encourage people to sign up. The cool thing as well is that before we launch the app, we're still technically in pre-launch. So if you sign up, you guys can get verified really, really quickly. And then there's also no threshold to becoming a content creator. So after we launch, there'll be like a minimal threshold to qualify with. Maybe it's 500 followers, 1,000 followers, something like that. But if you're getting in before we launch, you just apply and then we'll get you in there as well. So definitely if you guys are interested in that, sign up at pickaxe.com and then you guys can go through the process and we'll get that flushed through right away.
Thanks, Jeff. All the best, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.